welcome everyone for today's session, where the topic for today's session is basically difference or what is an agile business analyst and what is a typical product owner's job. Because most of the time, there is a lot of confusion now since we are getting into the agile mindset. Most of the projects that we do are on agile, and basically we are, you know. Moving on from waterfall to the agile development these days. So there is always a confusion of the different roles, like what typically a business analyst does and what typically a product owner does. Because there is a lot of similarity as well, and in today's session we'll try and clear out as much as the doubts that we have from our mind. So let's just move forward. Right. So this is similar to what Brijesh gave a quick introduction about IIBA. So this is all what he spoke about. And so moving directly into the session is, so we have divided the session into two parts. So the first part we will talk about agile business analyst, then we talk about a agile product owner, and finally we will do a quick comparison of the different roles. So I guess with that, you will have much more clarity of what the different roles are all about, what are the roles and responsibilities that a business analyst should have, and what are the roles and responsibilities that a product owner should have. So the first thing that we will see here is like what business analysis is all about. So there are a lot of definitions available all over the net, because I'm sure that most of us who have joined this session are already business analysts or probably aspiring to be business analysts. So just a very quick recap of what we already know. So agile business analysis is all about increasing the delivery of business value to the stakeholders of the project or the product that you're being developed. So this is a definition that IIBA actually defines business analysis as. So wherein it clearly talks about, anything that you do, any activities that you do to increase business value to the stakeholders of your project, if you're dealing in a service-based company, or if you're building a product. So if you're into a product company, so the value that you're basically delivering for the particular product. So that's it all about. And in case of agile business analysis, it's basically there are some principles that a typical BA should follow, or some guidelines that a typical BA should work. I'm sure most of us or all of us actually do these kind of, have these kind of principles applied in our day-to-day lives, just that probably we are not aware of it. So if we divide this framework into two different parts, like a discovery and a delivery, because as we know that business analyst is involved right from the requirement gathering phase to the delivery phase. And now that since we're talking about agile projects, it is just not like earlier days in waterfall, when a business analyst used to spend 3 months just doing the requirement gathering, create huge documentations on the BRDs, the functional specifications, etc., and then hand it over to the development team. And then, that's it. Probably a business analyst would later get involved into the project when there is this UAT phase, or probably in some kind of testing. So that was usually used to happen around, in the waterfall days. But now that we're talking about agile, a business analyst involvement is throughout. So right from the discovery phase, basically when they're gathering the requirements, to the delivery phase when the actual work or requirement is being built up. So it's a continuous process that a business analyst is involved. So when we talk about these two different frameworks, so we've divided it into a discovery framework, which mainly talks about the principles that you should apply as a business analyst when you are in the requirement gathering phase. And then it is the delivery framework, which basically talks about when you interact with your team, when you explain the requirements to your team, what are the principles you should follow. So the first one, let's get on to the discovery framework, wherein it says that see the whole picture. So this is something which is very, very important, and it is a very important principle for a business analyst to have or to understand, because see the whole picture in the sense you need to visualize the goal or the need of your stakeholders. So probably if you are visiting or if you are trying to understand the requirement of your stakeholders or the customer, so to understand the need and to visualize the company's vision is very important. So you need to understand what are the pain points that the organization is currently facing, and how probably you can build up a better solution. So you can only provide a better solution unless and until you understand what the whole picture is all about. So to understand what the company's probably the business is, if it is a new domain which you're not aware of, so as a business analyst probably you'll have to make some effort to understand what the domain is that your customers are dealing with, and then you need to visualize everything on a broader picture. And then the next principle here we talk about is think as a customer. So you need to think yourself as an end user. So if you were an end user, how probably you would have used the solution that you're talking about. So how an end user would actually use. So that kind of a thought process is required when you work as a business analyst. And the third one that talks here is like analyze to deliver what is valuable. So of course, when you are gathering requirements from your customers, they would give you, your stakeholders or your customer would flood you with requirements. There would be n number of requirements coming from everywhere if you're dealing, especially if you're dealing with multiple stakeholders. So in that case, it is the business analyst's job to understand which are the requirements will actually give value add or which are actually valuable to the customers. So as a business analyst, when you are into the discovery or the requirement framework, you know what the whole picture is all about. You understand what your customer's vision is. So based on that, probably from the list of requirements that you get, it is your responsibility to actually pick and choose the one which you think will deliver a lot of value to your customer in the long run. Probably once you do that, it will also help you to prioritize the requirements. So that is an important principle that is required. Finally, when you go on to the delivery framework, so the first one is get real using examples. So when you explain the user stories to the team, or when you're explaining the requirements to the team, it is always good that you try and back them up with some sort of example so that it becomes easier for the team also to understand. Otherwise, what usually happens is, when you explain a typical user story to the team, they're just focused with that particular requirement, and then they just lose on the whole picture. They don't know what is the actual focus or what the actual need is. So you as a business analyst, you need to bridge that gap. And it actually works when you are backing your user stories with some facts and figures, with some real examples, so that the team also can easily relate to or can easily visualize what the requirement is all about. The second important principle is like, you understand what is doable. So since you as a business analyst, you know your team much more than anybody else, you know what your team is capable of, you know that with your current team structure, what probably your team is capable of delivering. So based on that, you understand what is doable. So if you want to suggest a typical technology stack to the customer, you can always do that, considering that you have a team who is probably proficient in one certain technology. So you can always suggest your customer to build something with that kind of a technology, wherein probably the customer requirement will also be satisfied, and of course the requirement or the implementation time will also be less. So these kind of analytic thinking is what is required at the end. And the third point which talks about here is like stimulate collaboration and continuous improvement. So that is something which is a continuous process. You, like in a typical agile methodology, or if you're following Scrum as a development process, so there is this continuous collaboration with your customers or stakeholders that keeps happening. So you have your daily stand-ups wherein you collaborate with your customer, then you have your sprint reviews or demos wherein you're having discussions with your customers as well. And finally, this eventually helps to build up a very strong collaboration. And of course, you look for continuous improvement because there is always a new learning for the team. And as and when you go ahead from one sprint to another, you realize that the team is much more capable. They have got much more knowledge than what they had in a previous sprint, because probably they are much more proficient with the domain that they're dealing with, or with the technological aspect. Am I audible? Because I just got a message that I'm not clear enough. Can someone just?
You are audible.
Okay, great, great. And the last point here is avoid waste. So what usually happens here is, like, as a business analyst, it is your responsibility to modify any processes. So since we are following agile, we don't have any hard and fast rule that you have to follow XYZ processes. So anything that you feel is not providing enough value, you can just get rid of it. So if, for example, if there is a process, like, in the team that you're following, that whenever you are working on a user story, you're writing pages of documentation on that, or probably if you get some change requests or some kind of a feedback from the customer, you are maintaining huge documents. So if you think that maintaining such documents are just waste, and probably it just is taking a lot of time, and these are just eventually becomes a dead document because nobody even bothers to update those in the long run. Because as we are focusing on agile, as the term itself says that it is agile, so you cannot freeze requirements anytime. Any changes are always welcomed, and you might even, it might also happen on a very practical sense that probably you have developed something, and because there is some changes in the market conditions for which the customer's requirement changed, and you might have to scrap everything altogether. So you'll have to accept these things because it's an agile environment. So anything that you feel in the process of delivery, anything if you feel is not providing enough value, and it's just taking a lot of time with no value at all, you can just get rid of it. So just avoid waste wherever you think it is not needed. So these are basically a couple of principles that an agile business analyst should follow, considering that the time span of the business analyst, of an agile business analyst, is distributed everywhere. So it is right from the delivery, uh, right from the discovery to the delivery. So that's how it is important. Okay. Now, so since we're talking a lot about agile, so let's understand. I'm sure most of us already know what agile is. So it's just a quick recap of what agile is all about, and so that we are all on the same page. So basically, in agile, of course, there are a lot many things. This is just to give you guys a very overview about high level thing of how agile works. So you have a product backlog. In the product backlog, you not only have user stories, but you can have defects, you can have tech debts, which can be constraints, etc. So even tasks, etc. So product backlog is nothing but the entire list of requirements that needs to be worked upon. And in agile, you need to ensure that your product backlog is always prioritized. So you have your backlog refinement meetings with your stakeholders, with your product owners, to ensure that a product backlog is prioritized, so that you can pull the stories from the top of the backlog always. So that's how it works. So you pull the story from the top of your product backlog, then probably you do the elaboration of the story, you do the designing. Wherever you think you need to add a proper acceptance criteria, you need to add it. If you want to create certain mock-ups for the user stories, you can even do that in this phase. And finally, once a story is it's ready for development, it is, if you're following the Scrum method, wherein you follow sprints, which is usually of 2 weeks, or it can be even 4 weeks as well, depends on how your team is. So it is basically pulled into the sprint for the implementation. So the coding or the building of the story usually takes place. And then based on whatever you have built up, you are trying to test it. Now when you actually test it, you ensure that the acceptance criteria of the stories are tested well. And because every story, whenever as a business analyst you write, it should have proper acceptance criteria. So you test based on those acceptance criteria. And basically acceptance criteria nothing but a list of checklists to ensure that you are building the right requirement, or this is what it is that needs to be built up. And finally, if it is passed, so at the end of the sprint you have a demo or a sprint review wherein you demonstrate the story to your product owner and your stakeholders. And if it is accepted, it goes for the release, or it goes for the product, or the story is probably marked for release. And if it is not, then actually you can it again goes back to your the same cycle again. It goes back to the elaboration phase, and again probably comes up to the story building phase. So it's probably a vicious circle that keeps continuing. So that's what agile is. And the next slide we will see how, like, where all the business analyst would come into the picture. So when we talk about, sorry, right. So prioritizing the backlog. So as I said, so basically, it's a business analyst responsibility to keep the backlog, the product backlog, in a prioritized manner. So for that, you can set up meetings with your stakeholders or product owners, depending on, how mature your product backlog is, or how mature, the project has been. So you can set up the frequency, you can have it every 15 days, or if the project is new, you can even have it once a week. Depends on how stable your product backlog is. So have these kind of prioritization meetings, backlog refinement meetings, to ensure that the backlog is prioritized. Then as a business analyst, you also need to write user stories. So when you're writing user stories, also ensure that you actually get those reviewed by your product owners or stakeholders to ensure that you are on the right track. And next is the elaboration bit. So you actually elaborate the stories, writing, adding the different levels of acceptance criterias. You talk about the different mock-ups, etc. And as a business analyst, you also provide a lot of support while testing. So you actually coordinate with your testing team as well to ensure that the proper acceptance criteria is met. And the last point is, like, business analysts can also accept a story on behalf of the stakeholders or the product owner. So if the product owner is not available due to some reason, or probably you're not able to get time of your stakeholders, the business analyst can also take up that work of accepting stories on behalf of the business product owners. Now, this is a typical Scrum process, wherein, if in Agile you are following Scrum methodology, so this is just an overview of Scrum. So if you see from the left side of the screen, so you have the product backlog. A product owner usually maintains the product backlog. So we'll talk about the product owner in our next, slides, upcoming slides, of course. So basically, a product owner maintains the product backlog, and it's a business analyst who usually, in collaboration with the product owner, gets the product backlog prioritized, and then conducts a sprint planning meeting wherein, of course, the entire team is present. The product owner or the business analyst, again, there is an overlap of role, if you see. So the product owner and the business analyst would explain the stories to the team, and probably the stories that are explained, if the team members have any doubts or that anything that needs to be clarified, it's all clarified during the sprint planning itself. And then the team as a whole commits that, okay, probably we will pick up top five stories for this sprint. And then that's what is decided in the sprint planning, and then your sprint backlog is formed. The Scrum Master's role in this case is just a role of a facilitator, or somebody who is just there to, remove impediments, if any. And then when you, get on with the sprint, it usually happens like, the usual thing. So you have the design phase, the development phase, and the testing phase. A sprint is usually 1 to 4 week sprint that it usually happens, but ideally it is said that it is best to have a 2 week sprint. And then that is your sprint cycle, and you also have a daily stand up or a daily scrum, wherein you talk about, so every team member who's present during the this daily scrum, they talk about what they have done today, what they are going to do, what they have done yesterday, what they are going to do today, and if there are any impediments they would talk about it. So that's how it works, so that and it actually gives a very good clarity and transparency to the product owners as well as the stakeholders of the progress of the sprint. And of course, you can have informal demos during these times if you want to. And then finally, we have the sprint review. So the sprint review or the sprint demo happens at the last day of the sprint. So the day when your sprint ends, you usually have this sprint review, wherein you actually demonstrate the stories to your stakeholders and the product owners. And if that is accepted, it is tagged for the release. And the team themselves can have a retrospective meeting. So in the retrospective, usually you talk about what went well in the sprint, what did not go well, what probably can be, improved, or any suggestions for the next sprint, so that you can follow. So these are the things which you usually do on a typical Scrum process. Now, talking about the business analyst seniority. So, when you actually start your career as a business analyst, probably you're just 1 or 2 years experience. So you at that time are focused on the system improvement. So if you can see this graph, the x-axis talks about the business analyst seniority, the y-axis talks about the organizational impact. So how your skill sets are actually impacting the organization. So when you start with the system improvement, like at the start of your career, you are just given one project to work with or one project to handle. So you're just focused within that project, that one project. So you're taking requirements, you are writing down your user stories or use cases, whatever way of gathering the requirements. You are ensuring that the team members understand those. So your complete focus is within that project itself. Now, when you move a little higher of your seniority, you gradually realize that now you are actually dealing with a lot of process improvements. So you probably have multiple projects that you are dealing with, and then you realize which all processes can you get rid of from your organization, which are the processes which are not helping you, in an agile methodology. So you take that kind of decision because you have reached to that level of maturity. And then finally it is the enterprise improvement, wherein on a company's or on an organization perspective, you decide upon what value propositions or what new business chains probably the company can venture into. What are the you can do a sort of competitor analysis on behalf of your customer and provide them some kind of a data. You can do some SWOT analysis, so the enterprise level stuffs which you do. So from a project level to the enterprise level, how the impact of the business analyst is, that is what is depicted in this particular graph. And talking quickly about the skill sets of, sorry, anyone has a question? Okay,
No, Ishita, you can continue.
right. So maybe we can have a question answer session at the end once I'm done with the slides. So that might be helpful. Great. So talking about the key skills that are required is, like, of course, you need to have a proper analytic thinking and problem solving mindset, because unless and until you have that problem solving thing, you will never be able to provide solution to your customers. A behavioral characteristic is very important, because it's, as a business analyst, you are dealing with the customers every day. So unless and until you have that bonding or the trustworthiness created with your customers, eventually this will actually not work. So it's very important that you maintain a lot of transparency, you have proper collaboration with your customer, you have that trustworthiness within your customer and your team, so that the customer trusts you with the solution that you provide. So these are certain soft skills that are very important or essential for any business analyst to have. Talking about business knowledge, so of course, so if you are dealing with some unknown domain, probably that you have not worked on such domain before, so as a business analyst it's important that you gain that knowledge. So you can google out, you can read a lot about the new domain of how it works, what are the industry practices, how, probably if there are new terminologies in that domain, just get accustomed to yourself, because the more you understand the domain, it means that you're understanding the business of the customer, and only then you will be able to relate, because you as a business analyst, you're acting as a bridge within with your customer and the team. So unless and until you have a clear requirement in your head, you will not be able to pass that to your team. The fourth point talks about the communication skills, which is again very important, because you need to have a clear communication skill, you need to have a good written communication skill, because only then you will be able to collaborate with your customer as well as the team, because eventually you will be actually teaching your team, or guiding them on the how to build the requirement, what all probably needs to be done in case of the user stories or the use case, whatever. Next is the interaction skills, wherein, of course, the negotiation skills also comes into picture. So if you have a good relationship with your customer, a good trustworthiness with your customer, you can always go up and tell them that, okay, I think, we will not be able to deliver this because of some reasons. So if you have that kind of a transparency maintained, so it's always easy that, you negotiate things based on the requirement. So probably if you think that one particular feature you will not be able to provide within a given time span, so you can negotiate it with some other important features with you that you think. So these are some kind of sort of negotiation skills that will eventually come up as and when you spend more time with the project and you have a good rapport with your customer. And finally, the leadership skills is like, because since you are the one as a business analyst, you explain the stories to the team, you know how important the deliverables are, so you need to have a very good leadership skills to ensure that whatever is committed is being developed or is being delivered. So that is something which is very important. And last one here is like, you of course need to have software application knowledge. So just get yourself accustomed with what are the latest things happening in the market, what are the latest softwares that is launched. So this is just for yourself to educate yourself on the latest trend and technologies, so that you as a business analyst can participate even in the UI UX designing as well. So probably you see some new UI feature, and when you are deciding or when you are having a discussion with your UI UX team, you can always suggest something new, or you can always suggest something good. The same thing also happens for technological upgrade as well. So if you are just, you need not actually have to be a techie person, but you at least understand what are the latest technologies out in the market, how actually a front end tool works, what can be my back end, how probably a mobile development works, just a basic idea, so that when your tech lead or when your technical architect talks about terms, you are able to relate it. So you just for general awareness, you need to have basic software application knowledge as well. Right. So just a quick bits on value of business analysis in agile organization. So of course, you need to maintain the focus on the business value. So as a business analyst, you are the one who, like, going back to one of the topmost principles that we've seen in the discovery framework is like seeing the whole picture. So you always need to ensure that the focus on the business value is maintained. Now what happens, on a very practical sense, like when the project is ongoing and the team is working on the user stories, the team, or probably the team members themselves, they become so engrossed in working or developing a particular user story that they tend to do a lot of over engineering and a lot of gold plating. But since as a business analyst, you need to ensure that, okay, you need to have the focus on the business value, and any kind of over engineering and gold plating wherever you see is happening, probably you need to stop it then and there. So for you even during the delivery phase, you need to ensure that whatever is being delivered is that aligned with the business value. So that kind of a mapping or that kind of a visualization is very important. And also, you need to have a constant collaboration with your product owners and business representatives. It's nothing but your customers. So you need to have these discussions in terms of how probably you want to prioritize one feature or over the other, how probably you need to plan for a particular release. So of course these things are decided by the product owner or the customer, but you need to have a constant collaboration with them and identify any missing requirements. So this will eventually happen when you understand the business value, and of course when you understand or when you actually think yourself as a customer, this kind of identifying any missing requirements will eventually come up. And finally, you need to coach your product owner on IT. So many cases, your product owner might not be a tech savvy or might not have any knowledge on software industry. So in that case, probably you might have to coach your product owner as well, or you might also have to coach your product owner on the methodologies that you're working on. And you also might have to coach your development team on the business domain. So again, as I said, so if it is a new business domain that your company, that the project is all about, so you might have to do a bit of coaching on the for the development team as well in this aspect. And finally, you need to help define acceptance criteria before the work starts. So this is a very important responsibility of the product owner. Like any user story that you write, you need to ensure that it has proper acceptance criteria to it. Because based on that, probably you need to ensure that the story or the requirement is built on the right track. And eventually once that is done, you can always help your test team or the teams to help in doing the acceptance test. And probably as a business analyst, you can also do a couple of exploratory testing as well to ensure that the business value is met. So far we had actually covered about you know the role of an agile business analyst in a nutshell. And now we will be just getting into a product owner in Agile. So what exactly a product owner does in Agile sense. So, so who is basically a product owner? So when we talk about many a times a product owner is always associated with a customer or a stakeholder. So basically a product owner is something who has that vision of the product. So now just coming back from a service based mindset like to a product based mindset. So when you are building a product, so think that you are working for a product company and assume that you are a product owner because you have that vision. So why you want to build a particular product? So what is the vision of creating that product? So that is what it is, a responsibility of the product owner. And he or she is the person who basically leads that complete product. So he is empowered and committed as well. So he or she is basically decides upon which features should go into that product, when probably he or she wants to launch that particular feature into the market, how it is going to capture the customers, the end users. So these kind of mindset is what a product owner should have. And eventually it needs to have a good communication skill and a negotiating skill as well, because that's how you'll be able to pass on your vision to your probably the marketing team and as well as the development team. So you need to make your business analyst or the development team understand what the requirement is. So you need to have a very good communication skills in that case. And as a product owner, you might also have to negotiate with the business analyst in this case, wherein you decide upon that, no, this particular feature has to go live because as per the market analysis you think that the right time for a particular feature is within 2 months, and you just cannot negotiate in that. So the negotiation skill is also very important for the product owner to have. And finally, a product owner is a person who is always available for any kind of doubts and queries. So throughout the development process, so if the team needs any sort of help in requirement understanding, etc., a product owner is always available. So coming, relating it with your agile concept, so the daily scrums. So if you just recollect the slides that we have just gone through, so the daily stand-ups that we have in the scrum meeting, a product owner should always be present. The sprint planning meeting that we have, the product owner should always be present to explain the user story to the team. So he or she should always be available. And what exactly a product owner does, so on a day to day basis, what is the work of a product owner, if you think? So it's like, if the person is always working with the team. So as I said, so in the daily stand up, the product owner needs to be present. The product owner needs to be even present in your sprint plannings, in the sprint reviews. So in all the sprint ceremonies or sprint events, the product owner needs to be there. And the person is always collaborating with the scrum masters to ensure that, okay, whatever is planned to be delivered in the sprint, everything is on track, and things are all working as it is expected. So that kind of a collaboration is there. Probably not only he's collaborating with the scrum master, but probably he might collaborate with the entire team. You can always, so if you're in a good relationship with a product owner, you can always have an informal meeting with a product owner just to demonstrate a small feature and get a quick feedback. So that kind of a collaboration is very important. And working with customers, users, and of course other stakeholders. So product owner is a person who's constantly working with the end users or with the end stakeholders. So when we talk about stakeholders, they can be anything: somebody who is actually financing the product, or somebody who actually is acting as a customer for that particular product, or the end user altogether who will be using that product. So product owner is constantly collaborating with them to get the proper requirements, to understand what needs to be done. And eventually, he or she is the person who is envisioning the product. So he has a clear vision of what the product should do and why probably this product needs to be there. So that kind of a vision is very important. And working with the product backlog. So product owner is the person who basically owns the product backlog. So the product owner decides, okay, which all features probably needs to be there in the product, which all features probably are important or probably than the other features. So basically prioritizing the product backlog is what a product owner should do, in collaboration with the business analyst, of course. And eventually planning the releases, like, okay, which release would be tagged when, because probably if the product is just a rough example. So if the product is to launch a e-commerce site, and it makes sense that you launch that product during any festive season like Diwali or something, so that the end users would be of huge numbers, so that you can attract a lot of customers in that case. So that kind of release planning is what a product owner eventually does. And then collaborating the sprint meetings, as I said, so the product owner needs to be available during all the sprint meetings, being it from the sprint planning to the daily stand-ups, etc. And eventually, you become a great product owner when you actually do all the above work. Right. So a very quick touch upon like what responsibilities are of a product owner. So if you see, of course, the first and the foremost bit important responsibility is maximize the value of the product. So you decide the features of the product in such a way that it will give you the maximum value out of it. Then, as I kept stressing, that a product owner actually owns the product backlog. So he or she needs to manage the product backlog to the core. So what are the features probably that needs to be added into the backlog, how you prioritize it, etc. And another very important responsibility is to have this shared vision. So the product vision needs to be very clear, like what exactly this product will do, or what is the need of that product. That needs to be very clear, and it needs to be passed on to the team as well, the development team as well, who is working, so that they also have that focus of the business value or the business need. And eventually, the product owner is also responsible for the ROI, the return of investment. So he or she is equally responsible of the, how much probably the return on investment would be. So how much probably the revenue generation will be from a particular feature. What is the sales? What is the, the amount, or the, the stuff that you've got from the market. So this is a very important role, and based on that, the product owner also decides upon the release dates, because as a product owner, you probably are prioritizing one feature over the other, based and thinking some kind of a release date in mind. So the product owner actually creates the product roadmap, wherein it decides upon the milestones and along with the release dates. So as we said, so based on the any important events that might happen, you decide upon the release date for the particular product. And of course, you're maximizing the work for the dev team, so you're collaborating with the dev team to ensure that they have everything clarified, have, the requirements are clear enough. You collaborate with your stakeholders or your customers to, or your end users, to ensure that the requirements are all captured correctly and the customer needs are all, taken into consideration. And one very important point that needs to be kept in mind is, like, product owner is always one person. So there's just one product owner for a particular product that you create. You cannot have a group of product owners. Like, if you talk about product managers, there can be multiple product managers in a product company. But when you talk about product owner, it is like you should have just one, because that one product owner is a point of contact from the stakeholders' point of view, as well as from the team point of view. Right. So basically, what are the things you think needs to be there for you to become a successful product owner? So it's all about collaboration, if you see. So as a product owner, if you see the picture, the product owner in the middle, and the person is collaborating from every different directions. So from the end users, customers, you're taking your requirements. You are probably also collaborating with the customer support. So if the product is already there live, so, and any kind of a customer support tickets, probably production support work that you get, so a product owner is also collaborating in that. There, he or she is also collaborating for C-level suits, like, higher management levels of the company, based on the finances, based on the budget, because whenever you build a product, of course, a lot of budget, a lot of finances are involved to build that. So that kind of a collaboration the product owner keeps doing. Product owner is also responsible to some extent for the marketing and sales. So when you think you want to launch a big bang feature for a particular product, you need to inform the marketing and sales to start doing the marketing of that feature. So this is complete collaboration that happens at that level. Along with that, the product owner is constantly collaborating with the development team, with the scrum master, as well as the product managers, of course. So it's a constant collaboration, if you see, is there from all different directions. And the more you're able to collaborate, the more you're able to get your requirements done, you eventually tend to become a successful product owner. Now we quickly talk about the skills that a product owner should possess. So of course, some of them are very similar to what we have just seen for a business analyst, but then some of them are different as well. So problem solver, so that needs to be there, because unless and until you solve the problem, so as a product owner, you has a vision of why you're building that product for. So you need to have this problem solving attitude. You need to have good communication to maintain better transparency about how things are working and what needs to be done. You need to have a very good decision making skill, because you are the one who are prioritizing one feature over the other. So it's your responsibility to do this decision making effectively. So probably, just giving a very simple example, so you suddenly realize that the team who is building your team is building one particular feature, and the competitor has actually already launched a similar feature in the market. So it is now, going ahead with that feature will not give you the revenue, or not give you the value add that you have expected for. So as a product owner, it is your decision to either modify the feature, add something else, or if nothing can be done, you can just scrap it off. So these kind of random decisions is what a product owner would take. Then the next one here is, of course, you need to be, maintain the focus always on what needs to be done. And, the focus is on the business need and the business requirement and the vision, of course. Next, coming to, yes, the problem solver, which we've already covered, is like basically need to have this problem solving attitude. You need to clarify the requirements whenever the team members come up to you. Results evaluation, in the sense, again, sort of ROI. So you need to ensure that whatever feature you have launched is actually being accepted in the market and people are actually using it, and just ensure that the return on investment is proper. And of course, there's this constant learning. So as and when you spend a lot of time with your, in the product itself, there's a lot of learning that you do, because product owners probably would do would, do a lot of market research, would come up with, new features that the product might possess. They might also come up with new business propositions for the product, something new that you need to venture on. So all these things will eventually come up when you are, doing a constant learning and, trying to have a lot of knowledge about what is happening out in the market. Next, we quickly talk about the different competencies that a product owner should have. Of course, domain expertise. So this is very important. He or she needs to have an very good understanding of the domain that they're dealing with, because that is the crux of it. And of course, then maximizing the product value. So whichever feature that you prioritize, you need to ensure that you're maximizing the product value out of it. You need to have a good communication and an influencing skill. So you need to ensure that the team understands what your requirement is all about, or probably you need to influence your marketing team for some stuffs. And the customer to product translation. So it's the product owner who usually talks with the end customer or the stakeholders, and then how you actually translate their needs into a product requirement is what the product owner basically does. So that's the basic high level things that we had covered. And here, if you see, we've just tried to give you a very quick comparison of the different skill sets of a product owner and an agile business analyst, and some of the places where both of the roles actually overlap. Okay. So starting on with the product owner roles. So yes, portfolio management. So the product owner basically manages the complete portfolio of the product. So which are the features probably you want to go ahead with, or probably if you want to stop working in one of the features. So that kind of decision making is what the product owner does. And the product owner is owning the complete profit and loss for the product. And a lot of client management, because they're talking to the end users. Based on that, of course, product owner is building the product vision. Product owner is a part of the backlog grooming as well, because backlog grooming meeting uh, is the meeting where the product owner actually is prioritizing your backlog. Product marketing is also a part of product owner's role, wherein you market, or you ask your marketing team to market a certain feature that probably you want to do a big bang launch for. So that kind of marketing bits are also a role of a product owner. And then the customer focus, so, or the end user focus. So how a particular requirement or a particular feature would be used by the end user is what the product owner is focused on. And eventually the business generation model is created in that aspect. So what probably the new business ventures you might want to go with, because thinking about a product, any product which is already out in the market for 4 to 5 years, you need to look for new business generation model for it. Because of course, if a product is out in the market for 5 6 years, it's already a stable product. So you need to think something new, some new value propositions, or some new business chains for that particular product to make it grow further. So coming here to the business analyst roles. So of course, business analysts would actually create use cases or user stories. So basically dealing with the requirements or documenting the requirements. It can also be in the form of business functional specs, and they do business process modeling. So the business solution or process modeling is what the business analyst is doing. There's also doing these lot of business documentations, doing this requirement gathering. So all these things, the requirement related stuffs are all roles of a business analyst. They would also develop training material for your end users, or they would also, collaborate or ensure that the team understands what needs to be developed. So everything related with requirements or understanding of the requirements are the roles of a business analyst, whereas everything that comes with the product vision or the product marketing or revenue generation is basically exclusive role of a product owner or a product manager. And now where actually there is this overlap is again the tactical focus. So, you know, business analyst might also, when they understand what need of the or the product vision is, they would also have a proper tactical focus on what needs to go ahead, how probably, when you might want to launch something out in the market. So there is this overlap that happens with both the roles. Again, story writing or gathering can be done by the product owner as well as a business analyst. The product management or the product backlog that we talk about, so this is basically owned by both, because in the backlog grooming sessions, the business analyst is also part of it. And the business analyst would also sit with the product owner and talk to the respective stakeholders to understand what requirements are important, how you want to prioritize one feature over the other. And like a product owner, business analyst also has that product strategy. So the product roadmap that's been created, or the release plan that's been done, a business analyst would also eventually give his or her input in that particular thing. And eventually, both of them are focused on the system that is being created. So that is the main crux of it in terms of the overlapping role. So both product owner as well as business analyst would clearly focus on the work that needs to be done, or the requirement that needs to be built. And here, I guess there's this couple of slides on the certifications, which actually talk about Agile Business Analyst certification. So there are a couple of certifications that are out in the market. So you have this APMG certificate, then you have the IIBA Agile Analysis certification. You also have the BCS certificate in Agile Analysis and the CABA certification that is provided by iSQI. So these are a typical or very popular Agile BA certifications. And here, if you see, these are very popular product owner certifications. So if you plan to go or do certain certifications, you can just Google them through and have more understanding of these things. So you have a certified product owner by Product Manager HQ, and then you have professional Scrum product owner provided by scrum.org, and you also have CSPO, which is Scrum certified product owner, that is being provided by Scrum Alliance. So the second and third are almost similar, just that the certificates that you're getting, they're from two different organizations. And then there is something for safe product owner or product manager. So safe is nothing but scaled agile framework, which is a different or probably an advanced level of agile. And the last one is a PMI Agile Certificate Practitioner. So these are the couple of certifications which probably, if anyone of you is thinking to take up, you can plan and go ahead with it. So I guess now we can go into the questionnaire sessions.
Yes, good evening, ma'am.
Hello, good evening. Tell me.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, I just need your advice. I was in a serious problem. I have done, I'm a BTech mechanical engineer with 2 years of experience. And last year I have done ECBA from Techcanvass. And I have done certified Scrum Master and certified Scrum Product Owner course. Now I am facing trouble into getting a job as a business analyst because every company is saying that I am lacking the domain knowledge, and I'm trying to explain them that in the ECBA course we have worked on the IT projects, and I'm trying to show them that as well. But still
Hmm.
I'm getting very much difficulty in getting into entry is very difficult.
So I understand because many companies they look for domain knowledge as well. So if you are looking out for some jobs in Mumbai itself, maybe you can do a very quick domain course on banking, on insurance, because if you're looking for those companies, uh, the banking specific companies, or if you're looking for any product specific companies, so probably that might help. But then actually these, on a long run, this will not have that much of importance because everything is agile these days. And of course project to project things do matter. But if at all you are facing this issue, I would suggest, like, you can do a quick certification on any of the banking and domain bits, because these are where you look for domain knowledge. Other than that, e-commerce or probably any other domains is something that can easily be learned. That is not a very big
Yes,
deal.
actually, in my area, ma'am, like mobile and web development companies, I'm from Chandigarh right now. So
Okay,
there are much, and I have learned the basic coding like CSM, CSS, HTML, JavaScript. So still they are
got it.
saying that we are looking for BTech computer science or something like that.
I get it. I get your point. But then probably,
Okay.
see, if you are actually looking for a business analyst role, then probably you make yourself, or the CV or the resume that you're building, highlight more on the agile business analysis, because agile these days are very much into
Yes, I'm
in
already
these days.
certified Scrum Master, certified Scrum Product Owner, apart from ECBA. So I
Hello,
have
madam.
done.
I have
Okay.
also a question.
Yes.
Can I
Ma'am,
ask now?
kindly advise me on this, that what can be done. Like, or should I go for some the associate product owner role? Then I need to do one more course or something like that.
No, I don't think you need to, because you're already a Scrum product owner, you're already a CABA certified. So at this moment, what I would say is, like, you need to have a good, probably you are highlighting these things into your CV, but it
Yes.
has to be in a much more, proper manner, wherein, rather than highlighting your technical knowledge, wherein you
Mhm.
have done your basic coding and all, just try to focus on the agile bits, try to focus on, anyways, you're doing it, but then just ensure that you are basically focusing on the skills that you have already. And
Okay.
above all, if nothing is working out, then I would recommend that if you think that you need to have a proper domain knowledge, if that is the problem, that domain
Yes.
knowledge is required, then probably you can just do a very small course on banking, on insurance, because eventually these help. Because you can get into these banking firms as well, because this is a banking domain and insurance domain, is something that probably, if you have these certifications, that might help, because other domains are something that you learn on the job itself. So
Yes.
if nothing is working out, worst case, probably you can just go and do a quick certification on the banking and insurance bit, so that will actually highlight your CV much more.
Okay. Thank you.
Hello, madam.
Yeah.
Hi.
Yes. Hello.
Hi. So, as you, I am a 3 years experience BA, currently working in service-based company.
Hmm.
So, I just want to know, like as you mentioned, Agile BA will be a part from scratch, discovery session up to delivery phase. So, I just want to know, like, how BA will be responsible during UI UX phase and during development phase. So, BA will be responsible, or they have to just support to UI team and development team.
Okay, now it depends from company to company. In some companies where you might not have a separate UI UX as well. So, who will give you the design? Of course, you are not expected to do the coding of it, but you might have to create mock-ups wherein you
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
have a design team
After
altogether.
requirement
Yeah,
gathering, once we create mockups or prototype in Balsamic or any Exure or any
correct.
other tools, so just we
Yes.
need to support to UI team, right?
Yes, yes. So just ensure that,
And
whatever your balsamic or whatever your Azure mockups are, those are in sync with what the UI UX is building. So just do an overview about what is basically happening.
okay, and
And in
during
terms of story
development
development,
phase,
Yeah.
not
So
story development.
anyways,
After creation of story, there if
mm,
there is a project manager in software hierarchy, software company, so it is responsible project manager responsibility during all the delivery phase.
so ideally, again, it depends from the hierarchy to hierarchy what your company is doing. But I would suggest, like as a business analyst, since you have written the user stories, right? So it is your
Hmm.
responsibility as well to just do a quick check of how the development team is building up the story, how much probably if they need any help, quick help from you, just go up to them and
Okay.
see if they are in sync, or probably if everybody is located in the same location probably. So you can
Okay.
always go and ask your development team, okay, just show me what you're doing in your local. So
Okay.
that kind
Like,
of collaboration not only helps you to ensure
okay.
that the delivery is on right track, but it also helps you
Hmm.
to have bonding with the team members as well. So they
Okay.
will
So
also
like
feel free
weekly,
that they can come up to you anytime and get their doubts
okay.
clarified.
So like weekly meetings with team, or like if everything are on same page or not, right? Like that.
Exactly,
Right?
exactly.
And
Yes,
last
yes.
questions, like some companies are asking to BA also to be part of UAT. So BA will have to prepare test plans and all that, because currently in Agile every company has different quality analyst. So what will be the part in UAT of BA?
UAT for BA,
Yes.
they are not needed to actually create test plans and all, because that would usually be prepared by the test managers or the test lead, whoever is there. But you would
Hmm.
actually, in the UAT phase, you would actually do an exploratory round of testing. So you will not test the stories like story 1, 2, 3, but you will see the overall, because you're the person who know what
Okay.
needs to be done, or how the end user will be using it. So you explore the system and try to do a round of exploratory testing from your end.
Okay. Okay. Fine. Thank you.
Yeah, great.
Uh, I would like to know the details of course and fee structures and duration and all that. So
Sure, sure. I think you can
after,
email to Techcanvass and probably you can get the required
okay,
information from. Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
thank you.
definitely.
Dhaval, I'm sharing our contact details in the chat box. We can connect us there.
Sure, sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi,
Any
good
other
evening.
question?
Can you, hello? Yes, I have a question. Good evening, first of all. Can you throw some light
Good
on
evening.
the differences between the product owner and the manager? Is both the terms are the same or totally have a different roles?
Right. So what actually happens is, like, again, depends on the your company structure, how it is. So there can be multiple product managers in a particular company who are dealing with n number of divisions, or probably a number of departments, and the product owner is one. So if you can think about, so product owner is responsible for requirements as well, along with the return of investment, along with the marketing, etc. But a product manager is something who is not bothered, or who does not have that deep interaction with the development team, but he's sitting on top of a product owner, ensuring completely on the profit and loss of the company for that particular product, ensuring how the sales and marketing would work. So again, there is a overlap of role between a product manager and a product owner, if you see. So if you see the hierarchy, it is product manager on top, then product owner, and then an agile business analyst. These are the three levels with overlapping of roles amongst all the three. So if you just recollect what we just gone through in the roles of a product owner, I'll just go back to the slide. So here again there will be a sort of overlap of roles. So client management is something that a product owner is doing completely. Owning profit and loss can be done by a both product manager and a product owner, right? Then product marketing, wherein you are actually discussing with your marketing team, with your sales team, and ensuring what is the revenue out of it. That is also a completely a product manager's work. So product manager is mainly into usually a completely non-IT person who is basically financing the project, ensuring that the project or the product that you're dealing with have enough budget, or probably the product manager might actually talk to a lot of stakeholders and get the budget sanctioned, and then the product owner probably would prioritize those features, and then the work probably would happen. So a product manager's role is completely managerial role, wherein they are looking for new business opportunities, where they are doing a lot of competitor analysis, understanding what is in the market, how probably the revenue generation can increase. So they are completely focused on the marketing and the revenue bits of the product. However, a product owner of course does some part of the marketing and revenue generation, but is also into the product delivery as well, wherein he or she is actually breaking down the features of the product, ensuring which product needs to be no, sorry which features needs to be prioritized over which one. So that kind of a role, or that is a very high level differentiation, if you say. I hope I
Okay,
answered your
so can
question.
we? Yes, yes,
I have a
please.
question.
Just a
Sure.
second. Can we consider that a product owner can also play a product manager role
Yes,
in
yes,
this?
they can. They can. They can. So if it is a small, simple product, so product managers will come into the picture if it is a huge product. For example, if you're talking about Apple, so the iPhone. So because there's so many different level of teams working for one particular product, right? An iPhone. So maintaining that, or it becomes very difficult for one particular product owner to do that. So it depends upon how big the product you're dealing with. So if it is a simple one product, then in that case the product manager himself can be a product owner. But if you're dealing with a huge product like Netflix, Apple, wherein there are different product teams working for one vast product, in that case you might have a product manager on top to overlook the revenue bit and the marketing stuff.
Can you please explain the role of product owner in a project-based environment?
Got it. So basically, a role of a product owner in a project-based environment, if you say, is very similar to a stakeholder probably. So a product owner is a person who will give you the requirements. So he or she understands the product completely, and he or she is actually, will talk to you. So if you're a business analyst, so you actually talk to the product owner to get the detailed requirement. You talk to your product owner, okay, like these are the user stories I have written, can you please review it, or this is how it is going. And during the sprint demo or the sprint review, it is the product owner who will actually give you a go ahead that okay, this all works good, and probably this user story is passed, and then it can be tagged for the release. So on a typical project level environment in a service based company, if you see, a product owner is nothing but a sort of a stakeholder that you're dealing with in that case.
You can compare that with the project manager, the role of product in a project-based in company.
Not really, because a project manager is somebody who, in a project based company is looking for your budgeting, your resourcing. Okay, I have 10 people for this particular project. This is what I will do. So, he's more into the resourcing bit, he's more into the delivery bit. However, a product owner's focus is completely onto the product that you're developing. So, usually, a product owner is there in the customer side, if you see, who is focused on what the product needs to be developed, and of course what market or no, what revenue that product will actually eventually generate. So they're two different things altogether. A project manager manages the project, the day-to-day functioning of the project. However, a product owner is actually focused on the product that is being built. Now, since you are a service provider, so as a business analyst, you also need to have a lot of knowledge about the product that your customer is actually building for. So there comes the overlap between a business analyst and the product owner.
Okay.
Hello, ma'am. I had a quick query. I
Sure.
have, I have like 7 to 8 years of experience, and past 2+ years I'm working as a business analyst on a finance product. Now my
Okay.
lead is more interested for me to, do a CBAP course, while I am more keen at IIBA AAC course, Agile Analysis course, and the
Okay.
certification. So what you suggest, what is good in today's world to go for, which certification will be better?
So CBAP will actually give you an understanding of, how probably, a typical business analyst works and, a typical agile business analyst way. But AAC will give you the three different horizons. So, if you talk about, and since you are working for a finance product, I would suggest that, you go for an AAC course because it gives you an in-depth knowledge of how, it talks about the different horizons. There are different horizons that AAC will cover: the strategy horizon, the initiative horizon, and the delivery. So basically, right from the inception or right from the product vision to the delivery, how this complete process flows. So that is what AAC looks for. And since one good advantage is, since you are, as you said, that you're working for a finance product. So AAC will give you a much more clarity and good understanding of doing something, building something from the scratch.
Okay, okay. And if in case in near future I tend to switch the companies, still AAC is a better, gives me an edge over the other BAs, or
Yes, yes,
will it? Yes.
any day, because even the skills, the roles, whatever will be covered in CBAP, they're also there in AAC as well. But AAC is much more in depth and in detailed.
Thank you so much.
I have a question.
If she, if she,
I'm
sorry,
sorry.
if she, there is a question from Ishwari actually. Does BA
Yeah.
participate in
Yeah.
risk mitigation?
Uh, it again depends. So risk mitigations, in which sense you're talking about? Like, is it a product risk you're talking about or a project risk you're talking about? So it's not a hard and fast rule that a BA should
If it is
participate,
a
but yeah, tell me.
so yeah, if it is an risk, is the project manager is responsible for the risk as well, or do business analysts have anything to do with risk mitigation other than risk assumption?
So basically, usually risk mitigation is a part of a project manager who would do it. So of course, so if you are quite senior into the project, then you can always participate in that. There is no hard and fast rule that you should not. But then it doesn't fall under your the work that a BA should do. But as I said, so BAs are involved in everything. You don't have anything defined for you. So if you think that gradually you probably can participate in the risk mitigation, you can provide your suggestions, you can eventually do that. There's nobody can actually, there's no hesitance in doing it if you can actually participate in that. But again, it's not a hard and fast rule that you have to. Any other questions from anybody?
Hi.
Yeah, a quick question. Can I?
Hi. Yes,
Hi.
please.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a question. So I am working in a healthcare company as a developer currently, and it's with just a couple of months of experience. So I would like to like increase my knowledge on healthcare so that I can like go into the role of business analysis. So like, is there any course available that would be helpful for gaining that domain expertise?
The healthcare domain, is it? So, Brijesh, you
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
answer this?
Yes, yes, of course, Ikshita. Yeah, hi, Sanjani. We do have a course on healthcare domain because so wherein we have covered the entire healthcare industry, US healthcare industry in that. So if you can help me with your email ID, so I can share you the course details as well in the chat box. Please share me your email ID.
Okay, okay, okay. Yeah, yeah. Sure, sure. I'm sharing. Thank you.
Ikshita.
Yeah, I have a question here. So I'm currently working as a business analyst in the financial industry in the US. So I've done my CSM certification and will be doing my CSPO. My question is, how many years should I have more experience as a BA to eventually work my way into being a product owner? Or should I work as a Scrum Master before getting into that product space? Thank you.
Actually, it depends on your interest. So, if you really want to be a product owner, there is no, there's no limitation as such that, you have to spend these many years. It completely depends on how interested you are. So if you want to actually, since you said that you're working into finance domain and you really aspiring to be a product owner, so if you actually want to, you can go ahead and do your CSPO course and get into product ownership. But again, Scrum Master and Product Owner are two different roles altogether. So bear in mind. So the moment you do both of them together on a very practical sense, there will be a lot of conflicts, in decision making. Because when you talk about a product owner is typically responsible for the, featuring, prioritizing the features, or probably deciding upon, which features to be marketed first, etc. Again, when you talk about a scrum master's work is more of on a very high level. It is of a sort of project management, wherein you ensure that your delivery team is not overworked. You ensure that the velocity of the team with which the team is working is all good. There is no extra load to ensure that team members are all happy. So it's two different conflicting roles. So depends on which role interests you, you can definitely pick and choose. But I would recommend you that please do not do both together, because probably on a bookish term it is all okay, but when you're actually into the practical world, these two will be conflicting roles for you.
So there is no such a hierarchy that the Scrum Master comes
No,
with.
no,
Hi,
no, there
Bridges.
is
I have
there
I
is
have posted a question
Okay, thank you.
on chat box.
Yeah,
I have
yeah.
posted a
I was about to take that question actually, Abdul. So
yes, please.
yeah, I guess Natasha, you're done, right? Yeah. So if you actually, there is a question from Abdul.
Yeah.
So what would be the
Yes, I can see it.
future for a business analyst? Will BA job be disappeared? I mean, product owner will take over the BA job in future due to a lot of similarities in the terms of role and responsibilities.
Actually, of late, probably it will not disappear as such, but that since, the development cycle that we follow, so the industry is moving more towards agile methodology. So, we also have got SAFe, which is scaled agile framework. So since it's more of agile, that is the reason the more of product owner role is becoming more and more prominent these days. But of course, a role of BA will not disappear to that extent. That's what I can see. It will be definitely there, but definitely product owner role will become more prominent over the years. Because like if you compare a typical BA, which a business analyst who used to just take requirements and write documentations, now if you see an agile BA is much more evolved. There is a lot of responsibilities and a lot of work that they are also doing. And their a typical business analyst role is actually they're just trying to come at par with a product owner. So eventually it will not disappear as such, but of course it will be more and more evolved. And typically for service companies it will still be there, so in some form or the other. So that's what I can just say. But of course product owner, with given time, it will become more and more prominent for sure.
Thank you so
uh,
much.
yeah. So there's one more question I can see. Like, is Agile Business Analyst and Scrum Master roles the same? So no, not at all. It's completely different, because as I said, so Scrum Master is just a person who is there in the team to ensure that the delivery is all working as expected. The team members are not facing any impediment. So suppose, for example, if if I'm a developer and suddenly my system has crashed, so I have committed, so one day I just couldn't work, right? So it was a big impediment for me. So a scrum master's responsibility is to mitigate these kind of things, to ensure that the delivery is on track, the velocity that the team is working on, that is all on track, the team is not overworked. However, a business analyst role, agile business analyst role, is completely on the requirement fronts. So the writing user stories, ensuring what needs to be done, actually committing what are the stories probably will go in a particular sprint. Scrum Master is not involved in any of the requirements. Scrum Master do not own the product backlog. So there's a lot of difference between a Scrum Master and a Agile Business Analyst. Agile Business Analyst is into the product backlog, prioritization of the features, backlog refinement, writing user stories. So the actual crux of the requirement is handled by the business analyst. However, a Scrum Master is just to ensure that there's no impediments with the team, whatever 2 weeks sprint it is, if it is, so whatever has been committed is delivered on time, ensure that the leaves of the team members are on track. So all these kind of stuff is what a scrum master does. I hope that answers your question, Saloni.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much.
Great. Any other questions from anyone? Okay. For a BA who has not worked on Agile, will it be easy transition to an Agile working environment? Uh, Probably what I would recommend is, like, it will not be a very easy transition, because from waterfall to Agile, the main thing that is requires is a mindset shift, because a BA gets into, a lot of things when it comes to Agile. So the involvement of BA is, very, very much more than what it was in waterfall. So it's best that you opt for some course, opt for some Agile business analyst course, and get yourself accustomed, because once you are into Agile business analysis, no one will actually take. So it is like learning everything by yourself. So you cannot expect that, because you are the one who will actually be educating the team as well, you're the one who will be coordinating with the product owner as well. So there's a lot of the two different things that you'll have to handle as a business analyst. So probably just get yourself enrolled in some simple Agile courses and understand what are the different crux of it, and then probably you can go ahead and get onto this. But I would suggest that probably you should do it as soon as possible, because these days, none of the projects are following the waterfall method, unless and until it's a very old school technique that companies are following. So it's all Agile based, so the more you do it, you will be at par with the current market scenario.
Thank you.
Anything else, anyone?
Another quick question. So,
Sure.
being a product owner and being a Scrum Master and those kind of roles, is it expected that we need a basic understanding of code and the tech knowledge and experience, somebody who's not coming from an IT background?
Not really. It's not expected that you need to have a technical knowledge. But what I would suggest is, like, just ensure that you're aware of what it is happening around, so that nobody can make you fool, right? So a developer says that, okay, this will take me 10 days to do. So if you have a very overall high level view of what it is, you can always challenge them. So just for your own knowledge and just for your own understanding, you need not sit and do coding, but you should at least be aware of what are the latest technologies in the market, what are the advantages of it, what actually a front end, like, in case of mobile development, what are the things which are in, so that even in technical discussions, you can actually understand what is going on. You're not supposed to give your inputs in any technical discussions, for sure, but then you actually understand, or you actually grasp what is happening around within your team. That's it. So you're not supposed to have a technical knowledge, but you can just browse over the net, just see what is in terms of what is new in terms of technology upgrade, what is happening. That's it.
Can you please suggest some course for this, since I am also facing the same problem?
For which one? Tech,
Uh,
the technical
like,
stuffs?
yeah, technical stuff for mobile web development or something.
If you actually want to get into these mobile app web development, then you can go for any elaborate courses as such. But it depends on how what your project need is. So I'm sure Techcanvass does provide these kind of trainings as well. Is it, Brijesh? For mobile app development, do you guys have trainings?
Mm. Actually, we used to have a course long back. for that was a mobile testing actually course, not a mobile development.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So typically, if you are into business analysis, you're not expected to sit and code. But of course, if you want to have an overview about what these mobile app development is, you can just Google through and just get some information out. So that will also help if you are just a business analyst.
Okay.
Great. Okay, I think that's it.
All right, Akshita, I guess. Yeah, I guess we are good now. All right.
Great.
So thanks, Akshita. Thank you, everyone. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Akshita.